Alright, so this is Chapter 8, Topic 4, Solving Quadratics. So just like we did with polynomials where we took out the GCF and set it equal to 0 and solve, we're going to do a very similar thing, but with quadratics and using the factoring from the last topic. So there's a couple steps that we need to do, and the first step is to get 0 on one side. So remember the zero product property, you have to have equals 0 on one side of the equation in order to start to factor and solve. The second step is to factor. So you're either doing the GCF or the trinomial factoring. So the GCF was from topic 1, the trinomial factoring was from topic 3. The third step is to set each factor equal to 0. So just like in the zero product property where we had a times b equals 0, a equals 0, b equals 0, we're going to do the same exact thing. Then we're going to solve both, and then of course check our answers. So let's look at the first example. We have 0 on one side of the equation, so step 1 is already done for us. The second step is to do our trinomial factoring. There is no GCF with these three terms, so we can go right to our trinomial factoring. I know that I start with x and x. So I'm looking for things that multiply to positive 15, but add to negative 8. So over here, I'm going to do factors of 15 that add to negative 8. I have 1 and 15. I have 3 and 5. None of those add to negative 8, so I'll check the negatives. Negative 1, negative 15, negative 3, negative 5. It looks like negative 3 plus negative 5 add to negative 8, so those are my two factors that I am going to insert. The next step is to set both of them equal to 0 and solve. X minus 3 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. Right, solve both. Pretty nice and easy. X is equal to positive 3. Add 5 to both sides over here, and we get x is equal to positive 5 as well. So we have two solutions. Now we got to plug them back in to check. So we have 3 squared minus 8 times 3 plus 15. 9 minus 24 plus 15 does equal 0, so that checks out. Let's check 5. 5 squared minus 8 times 5 plus 15. We got 25 minus 40 plus 15 does equal 0. So that also checks out. It's really good to check your work because you might have made an error when you factored. All right, our second example is sort of like our first example, except for the fact that we do not have 0 on one side of the equation. So what we need to do, and I like to have everything on the left, is we need to add 10x and subtract 24 from both sides. So I get x squared plus 10x minus 24 is equal to 0. So now we need to factor, and we're looking for numbers that multiply to negative 24 but add to positive 10. So I'm going to look at some factors. I've got 1, 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8. I'm going to stop because I think 2 and 12 looks good, but it has to multiply to negative 24 and add to positive 10. So I'm going to put a negative sign in front of the 2, and we get that negative 2 plus 12 is equal to 10. So I have x minus 2 and x plus 12. All right, let's look at setting them both equal to 0 and solving. X minus 2 equals 0 and x plus 12 equals 0. Our solutions are x equals positive 2 and negative 12 when we solve. So let's look at the next example on the next page. So this one is a tiny bit different. We've got this thing that's already factored on the left, but it is not equal to 0. So what we have to do is we have to FOIL this out and then subtract the 6 over. So because we have to always have it equal to 0. X squared outer minus 2x inner plus 3x, and last, minus 6 has to equal 6. But we have like terms, and we can't have that 6 on the right side, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract it. So when I combine my like terms and get 0 on one side, I'm left with x squared plus x, because negative 2 plus 3 is 1, and negative 6 minus 6 is negative 12. But I finally have 0 on one side of the equation. So what I need to do is factor the left side. So I know I'm going to have x and x. I am looking for factors that multiply to negative 12, but add to positive 1. So factors of 12 could be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, but one of these has to be negative. I want it to add to positive 1, so I'm going to make this 3 negative, and when I add, negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. So those are my two factors, x minus 3 and x plus 4. Next, we must set both of those parentheses equal to 0 and solve. X minus 3 equals 0 and x plus 4 is equal to 0. When we solve both of those, add 3 to both sides, we get positive 3. On the other side, subtract 4 from both sides, and we get negative 4. So what I'd like you to do is to do the 2 U tries, and that will conclude your homework for tonight.